It is your Thursday daily delivery. I am Michael Rand. Happy to be back for another day. Hope you guys are having a great day out there today. Fantastic show coming up for you. Three main elements to it in a little while. Velle E. Neal III will join me. Usually, this is a daily delivery debate segment. Today, we focused solely on the Twins. Derek Shelton's introductory news conference as manager earlier this week. Lavelle's thoughts on the Twins, where they're headed, Shelton's news conference, my thoughts on it, and just kind of like where they go from here, which is an interesting question that I don't even think they know ultimately the answers are for this offseason. A disappointing Wolves game we'll get to at the end of the show. They get blasted by the Knicks. New York scores 137 points after a relatively routine start to the game. How does that happen? Where does that leave the defense? We'll hear from Carl Anthony Towns too. Chris Hine, our beat writer, caught up with Towns in the group setting post game, just kind of talking about his feelings still about the trade that happened a little over a year ago. So we'll get to that at the end of the show. First, though, what did I miss? JJ McCarthy, Vikings quarterback, 22 years old, starting to learn more about him as he talks every week, as we get to see him more and more. Let's remember, like, this is a guy who came in here and then, wasn't probably going to be the starter in 2024, but was still in the mix, in the picture. Training camp, then gets hurt. Sam Darnold takes over. Then this year comes back in, 2 games, gets hurt again, misses, counting playoffs, misses 23 of the first 25 possible games he could have played in this season. He doesn't play in 23 of those 25 games. He's essentially hurt for all of that time, even though he's an emergency quarterback a couple times toward the end of the ankle sprain this year. So we're starting. What I'm trying to say is we're getting a fuller picture of JJ McCarthy as a quarterback, but also JJ McCarthy as a person and as a personality. And like the former, he looks 22. He shows his age. He shows his 22-year-old age. He's uneven on the field. It's up and down. It looks like it probably should for someone who's made 3 career NFL starts and who was one of the youngest, probably the youngest quarterback in the 2024 draft class, still very young, 22 years old. So that part adds up. He looks 22 on the field for better and for worse. I mean, here's a guy who, I think I saw a stat, like no quarterback has had in his first 3 NFL starts, at least 2 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. So that's JJ McCarthy. 2-1 as a starter, 2 NFC North road wins, hard to do, but also room for growth, as he'll say, in all of those moments. Off the field, his personality, he doesn't sound at any moment like he's 22. Sometimes he sounds like he's 15. Still a kid, still an adolescent, still growing into his thoughts, still available to say anything. Sometimes he sounds like he's 100 with the wisdom beyond his years, these words that he uses, these kind of turns of phrase, the kind of thoughtfulness he uses. On Wednesday, talking to reporters, he's talking about kind of his intensity, which came into focus this week, especially post game after the Lions game. People are watching him. He's got this like look on his face. He's looking at KOC, and it's like what is going on here? What is this intensity? Who is JJ McCarthy in this moment? Got asked about that on Wednesday. Turns out it's not so much an alter ego, but it is a different place, a different kind of version of himself that he goes to in those moments. He calls it 9. He calls that version of himself 9. That's the quarterback. That's his number. That's the intensity. Let's listen to JJ McCarthy describe that personality, that kind of feature of who he is.
I feel like I do. Yeah, there's definitely a level of a switch that gets flipped. For me, it's, that I call him 9. 9 comes out, and I got to understand, like, okay, he can't be at his peak performance throughout 3.5 hours. So how do I find little ways, on the sideline, get back to my breath, get back to my visualization that could kind of maintain that intense, competitive stamina throughout the whole game. But yeah, it's just, the pure will, determination to get the job done. Honest with you, it really kind of started to show up this year. And it came about last year during IR, just never had a full season where, you want to be out there so freaking bad, but you can. It was just this built up anger that was kind of ready to just explode. And I chose to harness it instead of letting it go into, a self-destructive kind of way. And it's unique. And I kind of love feeding that wolf because my entire life, at Michigan, it was a smiley face on my hand and smile and you have fun, you're going to play better and all that, which is true. But I also think there's a lot of power that comes from, that built up anger that you can transmute into your performance.
Okay, so he's talking about that. My mind immediately goes to there's a literary expression. It's been used in greater kind of society. I think it got it's just kind of momentum in literature. The hour between dog and wolf. He's talking, and I'm like, that's where my mind goes. I just seen that expression not too long ago again, and so it's fresh in my mind. He starts talking about let that wolf out, but he's also talking about having the smiley face on his hand. That's the dog, but not the dog in terms of like he's got that dog in him. That's kind of like the nice, that's the pleasant, kind of focused daylight JJ McCarthy. And then the wolf, the expression, the hour between dog and wolf is supposed to symbolize essentially twilight. So it's symbolic and it's also got some realism to it, right? Like it's twilight. It's the time between day and night, that twilight where it's not completely light still, but it's not completely dark. You can't quite tell which it is. There's shapes out there. You don't know exactly what they are. Things are morphing into night. You don't know if it's a dog or a wolf. You don't know exactly what if what you're seeing is dangerous or docile or what exactly it is. And again, I'm not saying his version of a wolf is not dangerous, but it is this kind of idea of changing yourself, of transmuting. By the way, who uses transmute? I love that he used the word transmute, but of transforming from this kind of like place of calm to this place of intensity, this hour between dog and wolf. And I think that's where I think he is constantly striving for that balance. He's constantly trying to decide when to live in each of those worlds. And I think when he's kind of between them and channeling the best of both, that's when he has his best downs, his best reps. That's why you see JJ McCarthy as a winner. That's where you see kind of these moments come out for him this year. Now, not everybody can do that. You have to be able to be your authentic self. JJ McCarthy is a rare athlete who is showing us his authentic self. At least I believe that this is his authentic self. This is not calculated. This is just who he is. That's hard to do, but it is absolutely something that will make him beloved in this market. It is absolutely something that we don't see all the time. It is why Anthony Edwards is so popular, in addition, of course, to being a great basketball player. Anthony Edwards is his authentic self almost all of the time. You see it. He can't help himself. He can't help himself from being himself, which is a wonderful thing, a beautiful thing. We don't always see it, but that intensity, that's not an act. That's him in a different place. Kevin O'Connell, his head coach, talked about both that intensity and kind of the idea of that authenticity as well.
Never catches me off guard. I just know to give him the football, deliver the message that I'd like to deliver, and then get the hell out of the way for my own personal safety in that moment. But look, you look around the locker room. I know I did. Not only when I'm talking about him, but after when he's saying a few words, and you just see the guys look at him. They see J.J. McCarthy being himself, and that's all I've ever really thought quarterbacks in this league need to do. Just much like a head coach, you got to be authentically yourself every single day, and he's absolutely that. I think that's what allows him to be ready for the moments in games where he's answered the bell, twice now in 2 divisional road games. But that does not mean I have to be really close and in arm's reach of him when he does those things. But
love that assessment from O'Connell. I think that's spot on. I think the idea of being authentic is massively important. I get that sense when I listen and watch and talk. When I hear O'Connell speak, I believe he is authentic as well. He's not always going to tell us everything that's going on with the team. That's a coach's responsibility, but I believe he is authentic too. I see that in McCarthy. You see O'Connell, like the edges of his lips, that he gets a smile every time he's kind of talking about the personality side of JJ McCarthy. We don't know yet what kind of quarterback McCarthy is going to be. We're only 3 games in. We see glimpses of it. We see the unevenness. But I think this authenticity will absolutely serve him well off the field, and it feels like he is able to bring that into the game in the biggest moments. I think that gives him a chance, an intangible chance to be very good beyond just his raw ability, which I believe also he has plenty of physical gifts as well. So interesting week for JJ McCarthy. We'll see what comes of Ravens game on Sunday. Some of this feels like myth making. Some of it just feels like who he is, what this is all about, and just enjoying this while we can, enjoying this authentic person, because we don't always see that. Actually, we rarely see that show up in athletes, especially in our interactions with them. We're going to step outside of our usual debate format today with Velle E. Neal III. It was less of a debate. I'm sure there'll be things we disagree on. We naturally do, Lavelle. But Twins introduced Derek Shelton on Tuesday as their new manager. You covered the Twins for a long time before becoming a columnist. You covered this managerial search for the most part. You've worked with a lot of the people who preceded him in a media capacity. So I think maybe we kind of open this segment up more to what things he said yesterday, where the organization is right now, kind of give some perspective on where they are, where they've been, and where maybe they're headed, and kind of what he sees as kind of the path forward for this team.
Yeah. It was pretty interesting to watch that all transpire yesterday. With Shelton coming back, a lot of us already knew him from the time here in 2018 and 2019 as the bench coach. So we knew the type of guy they were getting. We knew the personality. We knew the traits. So we haven't seen him as a manager here. So that's going to be the great unknown. But I think he said all the right things. He talked about drilling down on fundamentals. And this program's not going to turn around unless the young players or the developing players take the next step. As I pointed out in my story today, some guys have hit a development wall, and he's got to be the guy who can hoist them up over that wall and get them to the other side. And he talked about doing that and talked about communications. And I thought it was really interesting how he spoke about how things transpired in Pittsburgh and what went wrong. And it sounded like it was lack of communication as far as making sure his message got out and through the coaching staff to the players, and follow-up conversations, and just making sure everybody's on the same page. And he would probably do a better job of that, I think, if he had to do it all over again. And he sat there and said he thought he was ready for the job, but you're not really sure until you sit in that chair and become a manager, what it all entails. And so that was his moment those were his moments to kind of learn what it means to be a manager. And as I pointed out, like last week, we haven't had that here. Most of the managers the Twins have hired have been first-time managers. TK was a first-time manager. Guardia was a first-time manager. Mahler was first-time manager. Rocco, the last manager they hired with previous managerial experience was Gene Mock. That's a long time ago, kids. A lot of you guys were born when that one happened. And so this is kind of they're stepping outside their comfort zone a little bit in doing this, which I like. And if that was a priority, though, I'm always wondering about the people they brought in for interviews, because only 2 have managerial experience. And that was Scott Service and Derek Shelton. So I think that could be a plus. He's got strengths. He was the one who designed all of Rocco's workout plans his first year as manager as far as spring training workout. Although I thought it was hilarious that Tom Kelly brought his spring training workout schedule to give to Shelton yesterday. That was an interesting touch. I don't know. I think the Twins probably staged that as a passing of the torch or whatever, or had him like the sacred tablets from the top of the mountain or something that he could take and use for his doing. Because I think Shelty already knows how to run a spring training. So, um, but all eyes are going to be on him and how he works with this group of players, a lot of them young and developing, while getting people like Pablo Lopez and Byron Buxton, as long as they're still around, because we're still not sure if they're going to be around next year.
Mm-hmm.
They get those guys all moving in the right direction.
It is outside of their comfort zone in terms of you don't usually hire someone. They haven't hired someone typically who has experience, but he's in their comfort zone in that he kind of has been here before. He worked under two different managers, which is kind of interesting. Worked under Molitor and Baldelli for a year. Sounds like Baldelli is one of his best friends, and it seems like personality wise or how they will run things, he seems a lot more like Rocco than a lot of times. I think Royce and I talked about this on Monday. A lot of times when a new coach, manager, whatever it is hired, you run into the rule of opposites, right? You go for somebody who isn't like what you just had. He seems
Right.
more like what they just had than a lot of times these searches go. So that was interesting to me. How do you see him and Rocco as being similar, and how do you see them as being dissimilar, I guess?
I think the Twins have bucked that trend of doing the opposite when they hire a new leader. You could argue that Guardy was different from TK in terms of personality and demeanor. Um, Guardy to Molitor, was that really that seismic of a shift? I mean, Molitor didn't try to give people hot feet or put exploding golf balls on the tees for him, but um, he was a great baseball mind. Rocco was a little bit of a change because we just didn't know anything about Rocco,
Mm-hmm.
but um, yeah, Rocco and Shelton. I mean, they go back so many years together. They're like best friends in baseball. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
baseball bromance with those two guys. And they talked a lot after Shelton got fired by Pittsburgh in May. Similarities and differences. I think I always sensed that Shelton had a strong sense of organization, and I think that's like his big gift. I'm not saying Rocco didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
I just think Rocco was like one of the more chill managers I've covered, and I think that rubbed the players the right way. I think they felt relaxed around him. They wanted to play for him. They didn't want to let him down. Um, yeah, he did get mad at times. He did get the red ass at times. He had Max Kepler in his office a couple of times asking him what was he thinking after a few of his mistakes his last year with the
Mm-hmm.
Twin. Um, but I think Shelton could be more fiery than Rocco for sure. Um, in terms of work ethic or work, Shelton actually wants to go back to, because the one thing he brought up yesterday in his presser was that he really enjoyed the spring training camp he ran with Molitor, and he wants to get back to some of that and how they approach fundamentals, how they drill down on all the little details. Um, Shelton may be a little more detail oriented to Rocco.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Shelton was a big help to Rocco his first year too, just because Rocco was going in his first year as manager and didn't know a lot of things, and Shelton had been around. So I think Shelton's got so much experience in different areas of coaching and managing that he may be a little more well-rounded than Rocco. And I'm not saying there's a knock on Rocco
Mm-hmm.
because I think there's a lot of managers who have gotten chances in baseball who are worse than Rocco Baldelli, way worse than Rocco Baldelli. And I think Rocco won here. He won 101 games one year.
Yeah.
He was in the playoffs too. He's done some good things. And I think the last 2 years for Rocco were incredibly hard, especially what type of roster he was handed by ownership. Not Falvey, ownership. I just have a belief that the Polak family has been responsible for a lot of things that have gone on in the last several months, including the sell off at the deadline, including the decision to move on from Rocco and get another voice in. But I think they brought in a great replacement voice in Derek Shelton.
It does. It struck me kind of as things were going sideways these last couple of years that, and even a little bit in 21 and 22, as they were kind of turning over the roster a little bit from the Bomba Squad era, um, that Rocco was a really good manager, that his qualities for managing were really good for a veteran team. And I think we saw that in 2019. A lot of that team was veterans. You got Nelson Cruz. You got all, some of these kind of
Yeah.
respected names that can kind of run the clubhouse. That if you've got a players manager who kind of takes it kind of not easy on guys, but who is a players manager who guys want to play for, that works well in a veteran setting. It doesn't work as well as you have young guys who maybe need a little bit more structure or who maybe take that leash and run too far away with it. Is that fair to say? And do you think Derek Shelton maybe is, in that regard, then a better fit for a younger roster, which he certainly had in Pittsburgh?
Definitely could be. And the best thing for a manager is to have veterans in the clubhouse. So he doesn't have to be in there all the time, holding players accountable, coaching up players, talking to players. I think a manager would just like to. It's impossible in today's game because in today's game, because of free agency, because of movement, because of development, you always going to have some young cats on the roster that you're trying to break in. There's always some sort of balance between winning and developing that goes on. With the losing teams and like with the Twins are about to experience next year, it's going to be a lot of development going on, which is going to be hard to try to win it under those circumstances. So when you have veterans in the clubhouse who could be those guys in the trenches with the same with the people next on their left and their right, it's more impactful when they are giving younger players lessons about how to play the game and approach the game the right way, admonishing them or encouraging them or patting them on the back or kicking them in the ass when things are going right or wrong, than the manager. I think Gardenhart talked about that a lot during the last Diamond Awards when he was honored there about how when he had people like Torrey Hunter and Michael Kadire and LaTroy Hawkins around to kind of watch over the clubhouse. So in this case, you've got Byron Buxton. He the only player left over from when Shelton was here, and you got Pablo Lopez. Now those are two good people to be viewed as leaders, and Ryan Jeffers is probably one in that mode as well.
Mm-hmm.
He may be the second longest tenured Twin behind Buxton.
I think he is. Yeah, he's got to be at this point.
Which is God makes you feel old when you start thinking of things like that. So with those three, you've got a little bit of triangle of authority. I shouldn't have said that.
Oh no. But we don't know if all those guys are going to be here, and we don't know who else they might bring in. Like it's a very unsettled off season in that regard.
So I mean, if there's more moves, and I'm worried. I don't expect both Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan to be on the roster in spring training. I think one of them's going to get traded, and I think maybe both get traded. So yeah, if that happens, then Shelty's going to have to do a lot of hands-on, verbally and physically to get these the developing core to head in the right direction here, and he also talked about the importance of how he builds out his staff. He wants diverse traits and diverse backgrounds that could connect with players and make sure his message gets out in the clubhouse. And I think his hiring of a bench coach is going to be important, especially if it's going to be a younger team, as someone who could be there, be a resource, and while being a lieutenant for Shelty, to get things head in the right direction in that clubhouse. It's going to be fast. It's going to be interesting to see how this is going to pan out here, especially if there's more trading going on during the off season. We'll get a better idea in the coming weeks before the winter meetings. Next week, Bobby Nightingale, our beat writer, is back on the scene after paternity leave, and he's going to Arizona for the GM meetings. And the GM meetings are where the groundwork for a lot of trades are made that are usually finalized during the winter meetings. And a lot of these conversations they pick up where they left off at the last trade deadline, where they were kind of talking about things, but maybe it got tabled for a while. This is when those type of talks get revisited. So we're heading to what is it? God, it's the second week of November, right? Good Lord. First full week in November.
This is, yeah.
Over the next 7 weeks, we're going to get some clarity on the direction where this all is headed, and how Derek Shelton's going to build out his coaching staff, and how he is going to connect with his new players.
I want to circle back on that in a minute, but what you just said kind of struck me because he got asked yesterday. I can't remember if it was you or somebody else that asked him basically like, what were you told by Joe Poll at ownership about where things are going? And he made it sound like he's got some idea, even though they're not sharing it right now. We haven't even learned the identity of these minority partners yet, Lavelle. It's November. But
I'm
like
writing about that for Thursday. I actually
good.
cornered Joe Pollett after the
Oh, good.
presser about that. So it's nothing earth shattering, but I think we're headed toward a resolution here.
Well, that's good. Good to hear that. Good to know that. But I mean, what's your sense? What do you think would have made him comfortable in knowing that kind of whatever their plan is?
I don't know. I mean, because he said the response I got made me want the job even
Right.
more. And I mean, I think all of us like, what the hell did he say to you then? But
Right.
he didn't want to elaborate on it. But I I was that one raised the eyebrow with me as well. I'd like to know what the contents were behind that exchange there. But I don't know if we'll ever know. I can only guess at um I can only guess that Paulette told him that the team. I don't know what the hell Joe told him, but I'm guessing that he told him that it's not going to be as bad as you think, and we are at one point we are going to put more resources into the team. Um, we got some great young players here, and we think we could win sooner than later. And maybe that's what Shelly wanted to hear, unless Joe Paul had said, "Well, remember that salary promise you we're going to double it." Maybe that's what Shelly wanted to hear. I
So,
don't know. At this stage, I don't know because I keep getting rumblings that it could get worse before it gets better. So
well,
I was really taken aback when uh, Derek admitted that part of the conversation he had with Joe Polak. I just got my imagination running. Unless they're about to shock the world and start spending, which I can't see. But then again, if they're bringing on minority investors and limited partners who are going to help pay down their debt, maybe they'll feel more compelled to go out and make a splashy move. I don't know. We have no idea. We have no idea if they're going to fish in the deep end of the free agent pool, the shallow waters of the free agent pool, right off the dock of the free agent pool, or in a fish. We don't know. We really don't know. God
ah,
damn it.
drop my line and there's Mike Pelfrey. There's Kevin Correa. Drop right off the dock. There they are.
Velasco.
Nolasco was a little bit deeper. They just overpaid for him. So, by the way, when you said
By the way,
Minnesota,
only player I ever covered who pitched to start the final game of the regular season and did not wait. He was taken out of the game, wet, showered, left the stadium, and got on a plane to fly to Switzerland to hang out with his buddies.
that's amazing.
He scheduled the plane the flight to leave like within an hour after the end of the game.
I knew we were in trouble because I was at his introductory news conference. I could be misremembering this, but what I remember is like at some point he was asked why he signed with the Twins, and at some point in there he said the money. He like honestly said the money. I believe he laid it out for us. He was like, "Well, they were the ones that stepped up to the plate and gave me the big contract." Like that was it's like you can think that, but I don't know if you should say that. I believe he said that. If I'm misremembering, I'm sorry. But when you
But
said a
just,
couple, go
but
ahead.
just scheduling a trip to
Yes,
Switzerland on the day you're pitching, to
yes.
me that just takes
That takes
cojones,
some.
man.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it
Or
does.
it means you just don't give a crap.
Well, maybe one of those two
He
things.
was
Could be
one of a kind in that regard.
could be both. When you said maybe they're not going to be as bad as we think, that made me think, man, what a catchy advertising slogan for the 2026 Minnesota Twins. Hey, we might not be as bad as you think. What I think Pohlad might have told him is we're not going to spend in 2026 because we're headed. We need to develop players. We need to find out what we've got. We're headed for some sort of labor impasse at the end of this season when the CBA is up, but if and when a new financial structure is in place, that's when we'll start to spend money again. So give me a year, and then we'll start to gear up again.
Yeah, I think that's possible, but it's going to take a while to get there because the CBA ends about a year from now,
Yes.
and then there's all kinds of talk about Armageddon. We're willing to sit out 2027. They want a salary cap. There was
Yeah,
a great
they
story
do.
about 6 weeks ago, and ESPN had pointed this out. There's a lot of MLB owners who believe that the reason why their franchise valuations are not going up as fast as other professional sports is that the other professional sports have salary caps.
Hmm.
And once you have cost certainty, that helps your franchise value rise. I also think that maybe my theory of this is also that's one reason why the Twins decided not to sell and brought in limited partners
Yeah.
because if they could wait to get out the other side of this,
Hmm. Interesting.
and also with a new TV deal after 2027,
Yep.
in which all the rights for every team can be bundled
Yep.
and put on streams. Because I'm telling you, baseball is so jealous of the NBA, because the NBA is in the middle of an 11 year, $77 billion television bonanza. Because
Billion. I know
billion,
you said that. You said that, but I'm emphasizing.
billion,
Yes.
because of all the different platforms that games are on. Baseball wants to get there, and they think a salary cap helps them get there. And in theory, franchise values by 2027, if everything works out the way they want it planned, franchise values could go up at least 50%, if not double.
Wow.
And I think that's one reason why the Polos have decided not to sell the Twins and bring in limited partners. And that's a selling point to the limited partners. Coming here for 3 years. 3 years.
Yeah.
If you put in 200 million, it's going to be worth 450 million
Interesting.
in 2 to 3 years. That's my Velle Neal, uncertified, unverified conspiracy theory.
I like it. Well, why wouldn't someone just buy the team then if they thought that too? But we'll see. Let's finish up this. Let's close the loop on this because we talked about player development. Shelton got asked about players on the current roster: Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee, Jeffers to a certain degree, Wallner, Julian, Miranda. You can throw a lot of these guys into that mix. These hitters who have either stalled or regressed in some cases or hit a wall. Some of it's injury, some of it's underperformance. How realistic is it to get considerably more out of these guys versus how much should they be now turning their attention to the next wave? Like which one of those buckets is more important for a turnaround here?
Well, development isn't linear for everybody. Everybody develops at different stages and paths and goes through different experiences. So you'll have some guys who look like they're lost causes. All of a sudden, they can take a big jump. I keep thinking about the Brett Rookers of the world who showed some promise, struggled at the beginning, got injured, struggled coming back from the injury, ended up getting traded, I think he got put on waivers by San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
I think Oakland got him. And ended up in the right situation where he flourished. And now Rooker's like, he's like the foundation of their offense now, sitting in the middle of the order, driving the runs. Sometimes you need to be in the right situation. Warner could be everything Rooker is, in my opinion. He's got to figure out how to. He ended up being vulnerable with fastballs above like 93 miles an hour up in the zone, and he's got to do some of his swing to make an adjustment to that. He's got enough power where he doesn't have to try to put everything into the swing to hit home runs. He's got 480-foot home run power. I don't know if Royce Lewis is lacking confidence. Brooks Lee, to me, first of all, I don't know if he's really a shortstop. To be honest with you, his range is okay. He's got a decent arm. He can throw, but I don't know if his range is there. So he's got to be more of an offensive guy, and he doesn't hit the ball hard enough for me. He ended up with 16 home runs, which is a surprise, but I just don't. He's got to do something about exit velocity. I don't know if that's swinging harder or making a swing plane adjustment or what. So all these guys need different things. We thought Jose Miranda was going to be a guy. We thought Eduardo Julian was going to be a guy. They both have regressed to the point where I think Miranda just wants to get released so he can go find a new opportunity. And those two, sorry to ramble on here, but
no, that's good.
Julian and Miranda, those are the two guys the Twins kept because they thought they had enough infield inventory where they could trade a couple. And they've traded Spencer Steer and Christian Encarnacion Strand. No. Encarnacion Strand. Was that his name? Yeah. Christian Encarnacion Strand. Traded both of them. And
to the Reds was that the Tyler Mahle trade?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So, and actually both those guys have just been okay major leaguers. They showed some early. They've been okay. But their okay is better than what they're getting out of Julian and Miranda. So
yes.
That's just been tough to watch. And then you have someone like Luke Keeschel, who comes in and produces right away and looks comfortable at the plate, who takes good at bats and puts a great swing on pitches. So it all comes in different paces and different paths of development, and that's the challenge for a coaching staff is to get the player to tap into the best his potential at different stages of their development and see how it comes. So it's not easy. And to borrow a phrase from, Kevin O'Connell, I still think organizations may fail prospects more than prospects fail organization. And so if you have the right structure in place, I think you get the most out of these kids.
Well, we'll see if they do, and then the next wave too will be important. The Emmanuel Rodriguez's and all of these other guys that are kind of Kalen Culpepper, all these other guys waiting.
And my secret favorite prospect, Connor Pralip, who I think is going to be a closer in 2 years.
Wow. Okay, into the bullpen for him, but okay, all right, there you go.
I watched him throw 3 years ago in spring training.
Yeah,
and the slider is special.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's interesting. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. Everybody's 0-0 right now, and we'll see. We'll see if and when the losses mount or the wins pile up, how this all really shakes out. Lavelle, appreciate it. Great coverage of this from start to finish, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you very much.
Great stuff from Lavelle. Hope you enjoyed our back and forth. I promised you 3 things on this show. We've done 2 so far. Let's finish with the cooler. Wolves lose at New York. Not playing Charlotte anymore. Not playing the Nets anymore. They are playing the Knicks. Knicks were in the conference finals last year, just like the Wolves. East for the Knicks, of course. West for the Wolves. Knicks took it to them. The Wolves made some shots early, maybe kind of relaxed a little bit. I don't think they thought this was going to be an easy game, but things were coming easy offensively. Defensively, I never got the idea that they were in a great place, and it showed in the second half. When Rudy Gobert is off the court, this is a dismal defensive team right now. Let's just say it. They've got no other rim protection outside of Gobert. They've got nobody else that slides over and helps like Gobert. Gobert himself probably could have been better in this game, but he was not the defensive problem. The rest of the team right now, the connectedness of this team is a defensive problem. If they were hoping to take a step from very good defense like they were most of last year to elite again like they were a couple seasons ago, they are instead regressing right now. 4-4, not going to go like all in on kind of the worries about this team. Anthony Edwards was back, so he only missed 4 games. Wasn't great last night, but it felt like more like rust than anything else. So I'm not too worried about Ant. I am worried about the defense. And I think it's okay to worry about the defense. It looked better against a couple of bad teams. Can they put 48 minutes on tape against a good team? I haven't seen that yet this year, and that's a concern for me. So we'll see where they're at with that. Karl-Anthony Towns didn't have a huge game for the Knicks, but again, the trade is still kind of front brain for a lot of us. Chris Hine, like I said, caught up with Cat after the game. Let's run that really quick before we get out of here.
As time moved on from the trade, obviously, in the moment, it was probably a lot to take, and you had to go right into the season. But a year removed from all, just kind of how do you reflect back on the trade and just your time with
I'm still stunned. I mean, it's still stunned. It's weird hearing it. You feel more like a Knick now after what we went through last year to get to where we went to and the heights we went to. But it's weird when you see that Timberwolves jersey, especially them 5 black ones that y'all got, and not being able to see Towns on the back it's a weird feeling. But I love those guys in the locker room to death, and would do anything for them if it wasn't about basketball. That's it.
So it seems like the emotions for Cat, they're still there. It's still kind of like a moment where he's still stunned by it, like he said. I think the Wolves have moved on to a reasonable degree from a basketball standpoint. I don't know that they would be any better off right now with Karl-Anthony Towns than they are with Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. I think we've seen that Randle is a great fit, but just showing that even a year later, this still has reverberations throughout his life, throughout both organizations. Interesting to hear him talk about that. That will do it for me today. Really good show coming up tomorrow. Randy Livingston, former NBA player, will join me talking about gambling, problem gambling, and what we can do about it. So listen to that episode. Should be a good one as well. Until then, I am Michael Rand. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Back at it again tomorrow.